Hello, my name is Abir. I work at Digital of Things. I'm going to be moderating today's session. I have with me Julia. She's the CEO and co-founder of Creative 971. And I have Sudipt, who is the CEO and co-founder of Digital of Things. Today, we know like many people who have many great ideas that they'd like to take forward to make a business out of it. Whether it's a product or it's a service, people would like to know how to launch those ideas and make them actually happen. So would you be able, Sudipt, to shed some light in terms of once a client wants to consult an agency, what kind of information they should have beforehand before they go and talk with the agency?
Sure, okay, that's a good question. So like you rightly said, people are moving to the whole e-commerce and digital arena now, especially with the pandemic. The main thing to do is line up all the ducks in the row first, right? So firstly, there's a lot of people that have great ideas, but they don't really assess the product market fit, for example. This region in particular has a specific type of demographic. So if you're targeting these customers, make sure you've done your research. We can obviously help with that. But make sure you've done your research, you know who your customers are, you know what you want to target. That's number one before you do anything. I would say a couple of other things is have the objective of your digital solution in mind. So for example, what is the objective from, let's say, a website or an app? Is it purely revenue? Is it to gain subscribers or a customer database? Make sure you're clear of what your initial objective is, because then we can frame the solution accordingly. What a lot of other people don't do is actually understand what the MVP is. So you can make a perfect solution, right? And it will take you, months and months and months. But to launch something very quickly to the market, you need an MVP. So what can you get out in the market that is good, and you start getting traction and data. And most of the clients I see, they don't have that clear distinction between what is an MVP and the end product. So if you have that in mind, that's really great, because then we can say, here's here's the new solution, this is what we want to get to, and the future phases will include this. So if they have that as a clear idea, that also helps to launch to market very quickly. I don't know, Julie, what do you think?
I think same. I was just going to say same, like from an agency perspective, of course we would need, or what we ask is usually reference websites, to get a hang of the touch and feel. It's more about the style as well. But we exactly have the same problem. So an MVP for you can be an MVP for someone else. It's two different things. Yeah. And we need to, let's say, take the client by the hand and let them know what we do understand under an MVP and what they do understand, and then what's the middle line, like the bottom line. I think the problem is with MVP that it's such a broad word, it's such a broad term, and we do have exactly the same scenario that a client can't visualize probably as much as we can, right? We're in the industry, we're in and out every day, we see exactly what's going on, but a client can't understand or can't project, what an MVP is. Yeah. So we would have to, of course, help, and I mean, in terms of preparation, for us it goes into that far too. Of course, they should have a business license, they should have their bank at least, or payment gateway started to approach, and they should have a business, not necessarily a business plan, but a rough idea, and as I said, like an idea at least of what they want to sell, because that would go in the MVP as well. But maybe, I know it's a bit of a question aside, but Sudipt, what do you think in terms of if we want to help any of the viewers out here to work with us in a later stage, or to in generally know what they want in their digital game? Mm-hmm. What should we advise them from your point of view for the MVP? Like, what should we tell them to help them to understand what an MVP should look like for digital side? Sure.
There's a lot of things that you could include in the MVP, right? People make the mistake that they think they need to launch the perfect product. I'm not saying that we should launch an inferior product, but what I'm saying is you can have a small subset. And then you can always expand it. If you look at any of the bigger companies out there, they always started with one core offering, and they did that really, really well. And then they added onto it as they got more and more users. And that's exactly what everyone should be doing. What are we really good at, or what do we want to target? Let's get that out of the door, and then we can add all the other future phases on. Obviously, for any kind of e-commerce or digital platform, you'll have like what we call essential flows. There's always going to be, let's say, a my account, a profile, a checkout flow. These things have to go on the MVP. You can't actually launch a product unless you have this. So that's always going to be there, the foundation of it all. And then it's extra things. If you take any of the examples of the apps currently in the region right now, they always started small and they kept expanding their services. So it's just, what can you get out there quite quickly, making sure all the flows are right. Get all the data points. Once you start being in the market for, let's say, a month or 3 months, you start getting user feedback, you start getting analytics data, and then you can revise.
Can work with that. So let's say, for example, for a client who's planning to, let's say, customize dresses as a business, but they don't know how far they can customize, because you can customize from a button to a million of variants just as an idea. You would tell them, or we would tell them, okay, have a selection of 3 or 4 dresses or collections, put them ready to market. Some are mid-length, like different types, and then have one, let's say, form submit that says want to customize your dress, put a inquiry down, and then basically assess from the data that gets fed from the website. So
exactly, and there's ways you can do this. So taking that example, research is really, really important at this stage. So you can actually find out from users, what do they normally customize? Is it the length, is it the sleeves, whatever it may be. If you find out that majority of people, like 80% of your customers, are only going to do the length, right? We can start with that first. But still give the option for them to inquire about other customizations, and that way you're picking up a lot of data, but at least you're going with a core offering that the majority of your users are.
I think that hopefully, I mean, leave comments, or maybe Abir can give us some ideas as well, but I think that that's exactly what people need to hear as well, in our industry as well as yours. I mean, it's a little bit different what we do, but it's still going to be the same concept.
Exactly, it's complementary to both of us.
So let's assume that I already have my idea and I want to launch my business, and there's so many tools out there that would allow me to actually start working right now by myself on it. How can I assess if I actually need to work with an agency, or it's something that I could kick off by myself with the tools available out there?
I think from an e-commerce perspective, to answer that, I mean, you have, other than Shopify as well, many website builders that you can approach, and you can basically get started, download a free theme or free template, work it out, in your limitations that you have within that template. Get started, get going, collect data. So if you're really at the base of learning about your industry or understanding more, I think it's a great tool. It's definitely worthwhile doing. But if you wanna, have a learning curve of, probably you have some customizations you wanna have done on the website, or you would need to see where is your, let's say, finish line, like where do you want to reach. But as a base, as a startup, you could technically do that. Where do you draw the line is a bit more of understanding what is your story, like where do you want to reach, like what do you want to achieve, and then seeing if the points that you can achieve are not matching up with the template that it's showing you. Then it would be the time of saying, okay, now I know I have, let's say, 50% of my website that needs to look different than it looks on the template. Then I'd rather suggest you then to look for an expert. It doesn't have to be always an agency, right? There's freelancers out there as well, but it depends on who do you want to work with, or how do you want to structure your business. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. There are various options nowadays in the market for any entrepreneurs, but one thing people forget is that once you become an entrepreneur, you get so busy with everything, whether it's finance, HR, marketing, whatever it may be. So doing everything yourself is difficult from a time point of view. That's number one. Secondly, even freelancers are a good idea. What I'd say the difference between agencies and freelancers is that you're actually utilizing the years of experience with the agency and all the resources together. So freelance people will be great, and they can dedicate all their time to you. The issue is that, sorry, not the issue, I would say the agency benefit is that you're actually using all the resources, whether it's a 5-person agency or a 50-person agency. They've all built up experience in various different industries, different clients, and they'll use that when they start designing your product.
And with the freelancer also, you're limited to their capacity. So let's say if they're not knowledgeable in all the fields, but probably only in one field, then you're still limited to their response times. If something happened now with Corona, we know they quickly disappear, and that liability or accountability you have with an agency, which is just keeping focus on your project rather than being furious after one and another freelancer.
I agree.
Yes, true. I have one more question. We just discussed right now about how important to have my MVP in place and to have that kind of a roadmap and the clarity of where I want my idea and how I want to launch it. How do I know that I'm on the right track, or how do I know that my the structure or what I had put in place is on the right track.
From an MVP perspective.
Yes.
The important thing is scoping out what the MVP is, right? And there's various different ways to do that. I won't go into the techniques of it all, but imagine entrepreneurs will have a feature list, right, or a list of wants that they want from their digital product, and usually it's quite long. What we suggest you do is first validate that with any kind of research, whether it's primary research or secondary research or your end users. Validate on what kind of features are useful for them first. If there's something that is a nice to have, push it to the future phases. So focus on getting that list really right by validating with your users. The other
one example to jump in here could be a wish list, right? We hear a lot of people coming to us, we need a wish list, but the question is, do you really need a wish list?
Yeah.
If you look at the current order volume per cart, if the current order volume per cart is averaging in Shopify around 250 dirham, 300 dirham per order. So if you're trying to get a wish list for product that is less than that, it probably wouldn't be so relevant. But if you're selling a product whereas 5,000 dirham online, then probably it makes sense to have that. Sorry, just to say that this is how you would understand, is this an MVP necessary for me or no?
And that's what I'm saying. So, and again, research would come in handy with that. If you speak to your actual customers, you'll understand what is important to them, because at the end of the day, you're creating it for them. The other thing I would say is also look at technical feasibility. I'll give an example. Everyone wants AR nowadays, right? And you could have a dress company that you can have augmented reality. That might take you a lot of time to develop, as well as cost you a lot of money. Now, do you really want to include that in your MVP, or do you want to go out with a solution that maybe doesn't have that at the first place? And as you get traction, then you can invest the money in that AR solution. So it's all about research, users, what they want, but also technical feasibility. So if you include all that together, then you can come up with the right list of should be my MVP be before going out to the market.
And then I think as well, what is from a logistics point of view important for you? So let's say you have a company that you don't fulfill it yourself. You're probably a one-woman show, and you're trying to get into the market quick. So you wouldn't be the one, driving out, the orders or deliveries yourself. You'd probably have, I don't know, like a DHL or RMX or some sort of facility that will either store or fulfill or just fulfill your products. So you would just need to see what is logistically, like what is making sense. Does it make sense to send it out globally, or would you focus on, what market you would focus on first? Target market focusing, keyword research, whatever you could do around, and then understanding logistics. Is it easy? Let's say for dresses, it's fairly easy. If I have to ship around an entire furniture, or if I'm into car sales, it will be quite difficult to get that shipped around. So that's again also narrowing down your MVP or which regions to start at.
Thank you, really insightful. Thank you so much. If anybody has any sort of questions, or there's any specific topic or anything that has been mentioned and you'd like more information or details about, feel free to leave us a comment and we'll make sure to get back to you on it. Thank you.
Thank you.